It's black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. It's black and white.
Hello there, my name is Lee. Welcome back to another video, and welcome to Timetable Reviews. So this is the show where I showcase my timetables in my collection. And welcome to this mini-series showcasing all the timetables that I got at the Rickmansworth Bus Running Day in March 2025. So in this episode, it's going to be slightly different as usual, as I'm going to do two timetables because they're both from the same year, they're a few months apart, so I thought, why not do both, saves a video. So let's go to the table and let's see what timetables those are. So here's the table and here's the timetables. So these are the High Wycombe area guides from 2006. This one from January 2006, this one from September 2006. So we'll start with the one from January 1st. First, it is in the old style. As you can see, this is the last timetable that was actually produced by Buckinghamshire County Council in this style. As a year later, well, a few months later actually, they changed it. So as you can see, it shows all the routes in the High Wycombe area, including services to Aylesbury, Marlow, Reading, Maidenhead, London, Beaconsfield, Henley-on-Thames, Amersham, Heathrow Airport and Oxford. Firstly, it says second edition. The first edition was made a year before, which, if I just grab it out now, this is the first edition from August 2005, as you can see in blue style. See the last episode for that. One of the previous videos for that. But as you can see, it shows all this. It was new. This new guide was made by the Transportation Development part of Buckinghamshire County Council, which was based in Aylesbury at the time. They will later move to High Wycombe itself. It shows all the companies. I must add, it includes operators not shown in the timetable, like Langston and Tusker and Jeffs and Red Kite, who were based in the south, in the north of Bucks. This is also for the south. It shows all three of the main operators' logos of Riva, First Bus and Carousel, who were quite a few routes back then. And then we've got the first route, Route 1, a route that we've showcased before, the Board End route. Only service on that, nice and easy. Then Route 4, run by Carousel again. This ran every half an hour from High Wycombe to Chesham. Obviously, back in those days, it was two separate routes to High Wycombe from Chesham. It was not just one, it was two. And then Sunday service, which was under contract to Buckinghamshire County Council. The last three journeys in the evening, which left the last one leaving Wycombe at 20 minutes past 10, was also under contract to Buckinghamshire County Council. It was an hourly service throughout the day. After 12 o'clock, though, they went to the High Wycombe Hospital, even though that seems rather pointless, because apparently it's saying it was a 10-minute journey, but in reality, it was actually, well, it was back then, but we'll get to why it wouldn't in a minute. And then Route 30. Now, this is not Route 30 that you know and love today. Route 30, this route was from Lane End to Flagwell Heath. This was a Monday to Saturday only service run by Riva, hourly service, but only during the daytime. The evening service was a different route. And then the green route, obviously Route 31 back then, running every 15 minutes from Penn to Downley. Of course, back in those days, the route did go to Downley, but it doesn't anymore. Of course, it's now Route 30. And it had a hourly Sunday service. Now, back in those days, Route 32 didn't exist, of course. We'll get to that in a second. It gets quite complicated. So the next one is actually red, Route 33. The every 10 minutes service from Tonbridge to Castlefield, which does still exist, albeit now slightly infrequent. Then Route 74, the interesting route that is Route 74. Now, back in those days, it was run by not one, not two, but three different operators. It was run by Riva and First, Monday to Friday and Saturdays. But on a Sunday, it was run by Carousel. And it was the case back then. First Bus operated it every 2 hours. And Arriva ran it every 30 minutes. Apart from the times when there was a first bus where it did actually run. So there was 2 trips at the exact same time, but the first bus trip arrived 3 minutes after the Arriva bus. Stupid. So next up, Route 100. Now, Route 100 had just launched back then, and if you don't know the Route 100, this replaced the old Cressex Express bus, which was run by Ambassador Line. Ambassador Line ceased the route, and it became the High Wycombe Park and Ride route, aka Route 100, in 2005. As you can see, it was an every 15-minute service throughout the day with it was 2 buses. Arriva ran this using cadets, and obviously in the latter days of the route, it used to have all sorts of stuff on it, but they later renumbered it. Note that it also had a Saturday service. Bearing in mind the Cressex Express didn't actually have a Saturday service back then. Then the 158, Marlow to High Wycombe, nowadays run by Red Eagle, but back in those days it was a Country Rider route. Now, of course, if you don't know Country Rider, this was a network of services that operated into the countryside. There was a network of services based in the Beaconsfield area and the Marlow area. All Country Rider routes, apart from a few in the north of Bucks, were operated by Arriva. There were a few in the north of Bucks, in the Aylesbury area, that was operated by other operators like Kite. But the 158 run every day on weekdays only. Well, apart from on Wednesday, and that was because of the 155 route, which ran to Maidenhead on a Wednesday. This ran once a day in each direction. Note though that on the way back from Wycombe, it actually ran direct at 11:25 straight there and then went back. Not in service. It was weird. Then the 275. Back then, Red Rose had taken over the route. Obviously, a couple of videos ago, I showcased the 275 Timetable by Arriva. A year later, they lost the route to Red Rose Travel. However, Carousel operated a couple of trips a day on Route 338 to Stoke-under-Church and Route 400, which is another local variant. 275 does still exist. Of course, it's run by Carousel now, but it doesn't go to High Wycombe anymore. It only goes as far as Chinner. It does go to Wycombe once a day, but that's it. Then the 305, one of the last times we'll see the 305, as this later became a different route. Route 305 was run by Arriva all the time, apart from 1 trip a day, which was run by Carousel from Beaconsfield. This was actually a bus that was on the Cheshire network. And that went all the way to Uxbridge, and even ran on a Saturday. Of course, back in those days, 305 used to run all the way to Uxbridge from High Wycombe hourly, but as you can see now, it was reduced to literally like 4 times a day. It's a shame about that. Carousel did go back as well. I must add, I don't think it actually. Oh no, it did actually. Never mind. No dues. And that went straight back to High Wycombe actually as well. Then the 307. Now this was a weird circular service in around the High Wycombe area. Arriva ran it with the 306. The 306 was Stockbridge Drive, which had an hourly service back then. And the 307 was every half an hour from the Hollis Road area, aka Hertford Rise now. Nowadays this is Route 34. Used to be Route 39, of course. And on a Saturday was only an hourly service from Roseback Avenue. Then the 308, which was Deeds Grove, now the 38, of course, run by Carousel. Back then it was Arriva though. And then the 308, 309, which were the Downley local services, now the 27 or 29, one of the two. Then the 315. Now this was an evening service, Monday to Friday, but on a Sunday it ran all day, hourly service from High Wycombe. Well, it actually started in Bourne End and went all the way to Lane End via High Wycombe. And then the 317, High Wycombe Maidenhead, now the 37, of course. Half hourly service to Bourne End, hourly service to Maidenhead. Then it shows the 321 notes. Now, this is one of the last times we'll see this sort of thing happen. Because it says to look at Bedlow Rider, and I'll get to that in a minute. Then the 323, 324 which was the Aylesbury services, of course, at the time. Now the 13300 run by Red Line buses. These obviously later became the 300, and at one stage the X30. And then we had the 326. Now the 326 is now the 32. The reason why they did this was this is one of the last times we'll actually see the 326, as I think in 2006 the route actually became Route 32. This is of course the original number from London Country. There's an outcry of it. Book at Asda to Mickleford every 15 minutes. This used to run all sorts of stuff. Apparently Northern counties were often used. Note that on a Sunday, it didn't go to Booker. Bear in mind, obviously, the terminus of Booker is actually the Asda, and obviously it's quite a big Asda, so... But it only went to Micklefield on a half-hourly service. It's weird, as it is. Then the 327. Now, this was run by a company called A&A Travel, and it's ran every hour from High Wycombe to Robinson Road. Once a day, it also went to Flagway Heath. A&A sadly don't exist anymore, but their history lasts. Then the 328, 329, the Thames Valley line, of course. Reading to High Wycombe, now the 850 service run by Carousel. This used to run LX 300s back in the day, and I really remember those LX 300s. Yeah. Then the 331. Now, this was run by Arriva at the time. Bear in mind, obviously, in 2005 and 2006, Red Eagle didn't exist. Red Eagle will not be formed until 2008. And as you can see, by then, they used to run once a day school buses. And it also did a return trip in the afternoon as well. It also had an X32, which was a service to Tame. Not sure why. Then the 333, 334. Now, this was run by a company called Maggie Travel at the time, and this used to run what basically Red Eagle do now, basically, on a Tuesday and a Friday. Then the 339 Carousel route. Believe this used to be both run by Arriva and Carousel, but Arriva had pulled out by then. Hourly service throughout the day from Lane End, Booker Crescent, and up to High Wycombe. But there was no weekend service. Not sure why. 340, 342, Stoke and the Church services. This is just a summary timetable. As you can see, it also shows the 275 service as well. It's ridiculous. It was an hourly service throughout the day, alternated between 340s and 342s. 340s went via Wheeler End and Camel End, while the 342s went via Stanley Green. And there was even a Sunday service on the 342, running every 2 hours. Then the 345, High Wycombe to Great Missenden, of course. Hourly service on that. Nice and easy. Then the 355. Now, the 355 in a previous video was run by a company called Exilibus Travel. However, by then the company had ceased. And it was now run by a company called Walters Limousines. And now, you might recognise that company. Walters do still exist. They're based in Oxford. But they used to operate quite a few routes in the High Wycombe area. It's a once-a-day service, Tuesday to Fridays early, from Hampden Mill End, which is on the 800 A50 routes, to High Wycombe, below the villages. Then the 362, which of course is the old London Country route number. Arriva was still using it at the time. It will later become the 62. However, of course, it being Arriva, no night buses, no Sunday service. Obviously, that was covered by Carousel because the Carousel would do cat. Then the 393. Now, the 393 was run by Maggie, and it was one of these campus shuttles. Now, there was quite a few of these. This ran from the Newland Park campus, which was a Buckinghamshire New University campus in Jarfont. It went via High Wycombe and it went to the Hanley Cross Sports Centre, which is no longer there. That closed in 2015. Note that there was a slight predicament that there was a 10+3 trip to Stanley Hill. Now, it's saying J, and it was run by a company called Jason Tours. Now, Jason Tours operated this as a 392. Obviously, I won't mention it because it's obviously a Chesham service, that one, so you really should consult, the timetables. Then the 400, Stoke-on-Trent to Bourne End, only Stoke-on-Trent once a day, but the rest of the day from High Wycombe, hourly service on that, run by Carousel. Then the 737, now this is a National Express service. Bear in mind, if you probably think to yourself, hang on a second, the 737 National Express service don't go to High Wycombe anymore, it goes via Milton Keynes and Luton. But back in those days, it used to go from Oxford, didn't go to Milton Keynes, it went via High Wycombe instead. This was one of the last National Express services to run to High Wycombe. They rerouted it. Back in those days, the 737 National Express was actually a stagecoach route. It's now run by Oxford Bus. But it ran a couple of times a day. Obviously, it'd been National Express. Started in Stansted Airport, Hatfield, Luton Airport, Hemel Hempstead, High Wycombe, Sandhills, Hennington, and then terminate at Gloucester Green and Oxford. And nowadays, it's non-stop from Milton Keynes to Oxford, and then it's non-stop again from there to Luton with the 3 stops there at Chorley Station Interchange and the airport. Then the A40, which was run by Carousel at the time, hourly service on that, and a Sunday service as well, out every 2 hours. Then we had the 2 dialer rides. Now, of course, we've mentioned these routes in the past, and the first one is Bedlow Rider. Now, both of these routes were run by Walters, and it was a demand repulsive service, so it was basically dial rides. It had, the weirdest thing is that normally with DRTs nowadays, it obviously has no schedule. These had schedules. Note though that Maggie Travel operated a couple of peak hour journeys during the school time, but these ran during the day as well as scheduled services. Bedlow Rider didn't do that. It was, you had to call them. Villages it served, you can call them for High Wycombe Hospital, for Ballingham, Bedlow Ridge, Salderton, and it also did Saunderton Lee, Saunderton, and Bounce Green. It also had a Saturday service. Then the other one was Hambledon, which was from Marlow. As you can see, slightly better, but it had different schedule on a Tuesday and a Friday, which is Market Day in Marlow. But it also ran to Henley on Thames a couple of times a day, if you wanted to. And then you had the rail services from High Wycombe on the Chorley Main Line, which at the time had roughly a hourly, about 3 trains an hour. Brilliant. And then it shows the information about the rail services and a map of High Wycombe. And then the train map. But that's the January 2006 guide. This is the last guide that was produced by Buckinghamshire County Council, had services to Newlands bus station. In 2006, things were changing in High Wycombe, and that's when this guide came out. September 2006, the opening of Eden bus station. Now, those who don't know, Eden bus station, this is the current bus station in High Wycombe. This opened in 2006 when Eden Shopping Centre opened, and in correspondence with that, to replace the Newlands bus station, they opened a brand new bus station. We're part of that. As you see, they had this press launch with 3 buses, 2 Arrivas, 1 Cadet, and a Solar for the 31, and one of Carousel's rare Oz buses that they had at the time. Obviously, you could see what was going what, because what happened was that the first bus ever to go into the bus station was actually not a public bus. It was RML 2440, which is a route master owned by a good friend of mine, Peter Cartwright. Of course, I have been on the bus once. Brilliant bus. Again, shows all the operators. This time it shows an index as well, which is interesting. I don't know why it did that, but oh well. I won't bog your mind. It's basically the same services. Not a lot of changes actually took place, apart from that obviously the services were going from Eden bus station right now. Then we have got some new routes involved. Starting with line 2, which was Marlow, run by Carousel, hourly service on that. But yeah, so I won't bog your mind on this because it's basically the same. So what I'll do is I'll just skip through all the timetables that we already mentioned, except by then Route 32 was born. So this was the year, of course, that Route 326 became the 32. It ran every 15 minutes throughout the day. Note though that in the evening it ran all the way to Lane End as well. But it did go to Lane End all day on Sundays, hourly service on that. By then, it was still not Route Blue route at the time. That later became at a later date. Then we had the 35. Now, the 35 was the Riva route. Now, again, this was an evening service, but on Sundays all day. This was obviously to correspond with 1, which didn't have an evening service. There's the A40 in the right order place this time. And then the 74 again, boring route as it was. And then the 100, as you can see. But then we also got the 155 involved in this. I don't know why it was showing the 155, but it was. This was a Colorado route back in those days. And it used to run on a Wednesday to Maidenhead a couple of times a day. Brilliant little route. Still runs to this day. It's run by Red Eagle nowadays. Still runs on Wednesday as well. Then the 160, which was the town bus. On a Wednesday, I had a different schedule because obviously the 155. By then, though, the 3 trips on the carousel routes on the 275 were still running. 305 still existed. The 307 still existed, as you can see. Now, the 315 had been replaced by then. This was replaced by the 32 and the 35s. Mariva were doing a lot of renumberings at that time. But yeah. 327 still existed as well. There's Thames Valley lines again. As you can see, it was all basically the same. Near enough, apart from most of the services were now going from the bus station at Eden. But then we have got a new route in town, the Campus Link. Now this was run by 2 operators. The main operator was Carousel, who ran it during the day, hourly service on that. It ran from the Charlton campus, which is now Newlands Park, Wellesbourne, which I believe was in just outside Bourne End, Wycombe campus, and then to the sports centre, which still exists back then. However, Carousel didn't run night buses or early morning buses. This was provided by the university themselves with one of their minibuses. And those are the 3 trips, as you can see. In the morning, it was all plain sailing. Then 1855, 22, 20, 23, 45 was operated by a BU Buckinghamshire University minibuses. And this only ran from Charlton to Wycombe. You couldn't go to Wellesbourne because there was no evening lectures there. And you had 2 return trips as well. It's saying you have to have a limited capacity, and on the last 2 trips you actually had to pre-book. You had to pre-book as well. On a Saturday, however, Carousel didn't run anything. It was all run by the university minibuses. And then we got Bedlow Rider again and Hambledon, which I wasn't bothering mine on there. And then the train services. However, this time, we've also got the Marlow branch, which, if you don't know, runs an hourly service. It's run by, at that time, it was first Great Western Link running this, but it's now Great Western Railway. The line itself is, it runs from Marlow to Bourne End and reverses and then goes to Cookham and First Platte and then Maidenhead. It uses 1 train, normally a 165, but in the peak it's 2 trains where they split the service so that one terminates at Bourne End from Maidenhead and the other one goes all the way to, and then 1 train just shuttles back and forth to Marlow. And the map of Wycombe again, and the map of trains. But those are the 2006 guides for the High Wycombe area. There we go. So I really hope you enjoyed this video with Timetable views. If you do enjoy this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. As I said in the previous video, there's not a lot of these left. I originally planned to do all of them, but there's still loads in my collection that I bought at Chesham. I bought quite a few at Rickmansworth, sorry. It's not Chesham, Rickmansworth. Which meant that it seems rather pointless for me to do them all. So there's only 2 more after this. So stay tuned for those 2, which will come out in the next week and the week after. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video I make. Goodbye.